In this video we're going to look at XAMPP for Windows. XAMPP is a tool that combines a web server, in this case Apache, MySQL database, the PHP scripting language, and PHP MyAdmin, which allows us to administer the database. In order to get it, all we have to do is just type in XAMPP into any search engine and it takes us here to apachefriends.org. So we'll now download it. There are three ways of doing it. There are two zip files you can use, or probably the simplest of all, and certainly the one I would use is the installer. So let's just do that. We click on the installer. It is open source, so it's now taken us to SourceForge to download the files. And as we can see, there it is, and it invites us to download it. I'm not going to do this because I've already got a copy of it. So let's just discard this, and then we'll go to the location. And this is where I saved my file to. As you can see, 1.74 was the version. And now we're going to install this, and it brings up an installer page. The first thing you notice here is the default location for the installation itself. Part of the reason for this is because XAMPP does not have enough permissions to install in program files. In a lot of ways that's probably not a bad thing. In fact, it's more of an advantage to put it in somewhere like XAMPP, because you know exactly where to look, and there's less risk if you're deleting things out that you'll damage program files in some way. So we click on the next button here, and there's standard things to do here. We have a desktop. We can set up a desktop icon, add it to the start menu, and set up the services as well. We're not going to do this here because we can take care of it once the installation is completed. So at this point we're also going to cancel because we have a copy of it pre-installed. So let's just cancel that. And this is our directory, C:\XAMPP. As you can see, everything is in here. We've got our Apache directory, we've CGI bin for Perl scripts to run, we've got htdocs for our files, Perl is here, PHP, there's MySQL, our database, and there's PHP MyAdmin, which allows us to administer MySQL database. We also have a number of batch files down here to start and stop Apache. The other thing that happens when we install it is we get a control panel. Now this is one of the reasons why we chose not to install it as a service at the beginning. We can actually do it from here. So by clicking on this box here, we can install Apache or MySQL as a Windows service. It's convenient to do, because it's so easy to add and remove. I tend to do this because it's just so much simpler. The other thing as well that can be problematic is this whole question of port 80. There are some applications, and probably the biggest problem is something like Skype. If you Skype on your computer, it automatically takes port 80 unless you configure it, which means if we try to start Apache we're going to run into all sorts of problems. So this is why I find it more useful to set up the service. And to get it running, we just click on the button here. And if I click on the stop, it's going to become like this. It'll say start. So I'm going to leave that be because it'll take a little time for it to shut down and start up again. And the same thing applies to MySQL. And once we have this done, we have the Apache running, MySQL done running, then what we now see is this is our location. So notice here we've got localhost. We can obviously also use our 127. To install the thing, and as you can see it's absolutely identical to the local host. It's particularly useful if you want to do some testing on websites, or maybe there's some programs or things that you're working with and you don't want to go through all the grief of trying to install each of the products individually. This is one of the very good things about something like XAMPP, is you just take it down, you install it, it's in one local directory, and you can take care of everything here. And it's an absolutely terrific tool. There's very little that needs to be configured, and that's pretty much it.